good. It's working, Liz.
Yay.
Woo. Okay. Are you writing the note?
I was.
You can. No show notes, but maybe a slight outline for today. Hi, welcome to the Sun Dragon Sideshow.
The Dear Becky and Lizzie edition.
Sorry, I'm making you do things that, yeah. Hi, I'm Rebecca. I'm the owner of Sun Dragon Art and Fiber in attempting to dry out Brevard, North Carolina.
I'm Liz. I'm the minion there.
I didn't even hear you over here. I'm hoping the microphone.
I'm Liz. I'm the minion there.
I just I heard. Apparently, we've had a rough week.
Motivation is dead today.
I'm noticing. I had a trouble getting going this morning, but I usually just barrel through the day. So we'll see how that goes. But lots of potential things to cover today. And it's since the trying to be clear, since it's the Dear Becky and Lizzie edition, we have a couple of questions. One was a comment on one of our videos, and one was a write-in, which is both reminding us what we meant to talk about last week and maybe asking something else. I forget. Yes, but I think so. I'm going to start with some shopkeeping, house, whatever details. I don't know, but cute hairdo today, by the way. The half up look. The dreads. I actually
did my hair today.
Oh, I never know.
There was one day I didn't even run my fingers through it. I just
But does it tangle that much? I should not be.
Not really. It kind of, falls out, but not falls out in a bad way. But
this was done with just fingers this morning. I did not run a brush through my hair this morning. There's days I just get it up and it probably looks like it, but whatever, get my rogue streak going right there. Love it. Anyway, housekeeping was not going to be hair work. I think y'all know us by now, or if you're new, hi, Squirrel. This is us. So yes, I created a pop-up sale just for today because Happy St. Patrick's Day. Yay. I'm not wearing green.
I'm wearing 2 greens.
Oh, look at you. See, she actually thought ahead. I could have been wearing one of my green work shirts, and I'm not because oh, you've got Star Wars green.
Star Wars green.
There you go. She's wearing two things of green, which makes up for me not wearing green. So,
and you have a green work shirt.
I do, but I wore it yesterday.
And your pants are kind of an olivey.
I got khaki olivey green pants on. Yay, St. Patrick's Day. But we are having a flash sale only for today, 20% off with the code St. Patrick. I think I set it up to work with or without a space between the words. So St. Patrick will get you not the whole phrase of the day or whatever, but that'll get you 20% off in the online shop. It'll also be 20% off if you come in the shop and at checkout say, hey, I want the St. Patrick's discount. However, once we close tonight, the discount only applies to what you can find in the online shop. It's not well, I wanted the discount, especially if you're local. I wanted the discount, but no, if you come in today, or use the code online for what we have online. There's a lot of stuff that's not online, and that's just, we got to do what we can. Okay, so that's my public service announcement and yay flash sale. So yeah, okay. Other things, just to get it out of the way up front in case we run long, because just as always, that's running really slow when you change the batteries in it. Yeah.
Sorry, we have 10 minutes off.
It's not quite that bad. It's not quite that bad. It's getting close, but you all don't need to hear us talk about that. We have a clock over there, so I can keep track of time without staring at my watch all the time. And right now it's running at least 5 to 8 minutes behind. So, oops. But that means someone will come knock on the door and be like, "It's not 10." Oh, it is 10. Oops. So. But in case we run out of time at the end, because I got in late because I was having too much fun making a reel because my cat's tail decided to get in the way of filming this morning. We have virtual sit and stitch tomorrow from 7 to 9 p.m. Our usual 2 times a week, a nightly sit and stitch. And we also have our monthly, once a month, it happens on a Sunday, anywhere from 1 to 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Check in with us on Facebook because we'll be streaming live, or come to Zoom again and see maybe some of the same people, maybe some different people than you would see during the evening sit and stitch. All of that for the Zoom stuff, use the shop phone number.
828-877-3550.
See, we all have our roles to play. So, and we're gearing up for the Ranunculus knit along happening in April. I noticed, I think the beginning of April is like a Friday or something. So we may not be talking about it and starting to do it and starting to show it off until that first Tuesday that we film, because we film Tuesday,
Yes.
Wednesday, Thursday. Yeah. So, but anytime in April, you can start it, and it's going to take as long as it takes. Like the Echo Point, that was our January knit along. It's not like, oh, got to get done in January. I still haven't finished my Echo Point. Everything takes
I'm
the time
still
that
in
it's
the
going to
first
take.
2 colors.
Of your crochet one?
Of my crochet one.
Because, you know, we were left unattended at the shop. So, other things I wanted to talk about really briefly. I half promised this yesterday. My ranunculus choices. I really want to make one out of Mayu lace, and I had picked this new color. And then yesterday we just got this new color in, and they kind of go together. So I have, I don't know about, like, this feels like it's not me next to my face, but
Pretty warm.
it's pretty warm.
Yeah.
But then it was either you or Amy yesterday was like,
I said mix
I think you said mix them, but Amy was suggesting I make a different top out of this one. But do I want to make 2 tops out of Mayu lace? I don't know. But the thing you were talking about at the end of the day, Tuesday was one color for the top and one color for the bottom. And like I think we clarified it off camera for me, but doing some alternating things, I was like, ooh, checkerboard, and you're like, no, and my brain just exploded. But like, I think about it like interlocking fingers. Like if you have a column of the teals of this, like the aqua coming down, or the green, whatever it is, it's called munya. I'm not sure. It's like a greeny tealy something. But if those come down and you alternate columns with the coral and then pick up with the coral, that's a pretty cool idea. So it's a thought. So I'm not sure. Single color lace, 2 color.
I think either way, like whether it was checkerboard or whether you do stripes of,
they're both neat,
like vertical stripes of color every other stitch, it looks really cool.
Yeah.
So
I mean, part of me does want to just stick to one color, because the other yarn I've selected, I totally changed my mind. I was gonna do the coastline, and I think if anyone wants to do the coastline, it will be gorgeous and squishy and a thick spring top, because it's a lot of plant fibers. But I changed my mind to, ooh, what if I did this? What if I did Cumulus Rainbow in a bright poppin' color, and half these colors are back ordered. So we have them in some colors and not in others, but this is like 250 yards that changes color through the whole thing. And they're about to come out in the spring. I don't think it's going to be released. Maybe it'll be released in April, but we haven't ordered it yet. They're about to come out in the spring with rainbow versions that instead of multicolors, it's just like a gradient. It's called like a dégradé. That's the word I was searching for the other day. Like instead of calling things gradients, they're starting to call them dégradés, because I saw on someone else's website with a yarn that was unrelated to this. That's like the new thing to call a gradient, like a shifting from light to dark or something like that. But I think this color changing rainbow, I have worked with this yarn twice when it's alternated against a solid, and it's so pretty. And I've seen some examples, and I've seen some of our knitters examples of just knitting straight with this. And I would love to have a sample in the shop that is just knit straight with this. So I'm going to do the go big or go home, like banging popping color here. And this one's called Tropical Sunset, because it kind of has some Sun Dragon colors. The outside edges of this are Sun Dragon color. And technically we use blue a lot. This is like a fiery teal, like a really intense bright one. So I think it could work. I'm probably going to need at least 3 of these. It's about 250 yards. It's considered a worsted weight, but there's a lot more yardage than you might expect in here for 100 grams, because it's a really soft chainette. It's mostly cotton and just the littlest hint of nylon to keep this chainette structure. So it's soft and fluffy, and actually probably a lot warmer than you would expect cotton to be. Like, I'm going to make a top out of it that I'm expecting. It's not going to be one, especially at this thickness, that I'm going to wear in the middle of the summer. But I think it would be kind of cool to have the fiery red like up here. As much as I'm like, this is too warm for me, I'm like, kabam. Because I'd rather have the fiery red at the collar shifting to the aqua and then back again than have like a big band of red around my tummy. Yeah. Let's be honest. And who knows, like, so if I start a second skein, I'll go red to the teal aqua, and then I'll start the next color from the center, so it's fading back out from the same color. So I'm trying to do both ends of the spectrum of what you can do with the ranunculus. Super thin, thicker end. It's still not on a size 10 needle. This will still have some openness to it. But honestly, the Cumulus Rainbow says use a 7 to 9 needle on it. Half the patterns I've used for it or that are written for it are written on 10s to let it fluff and not be super tight. So it's not one of the yarns that's on sale this week. We listed 8 yarns for sale yesterday, and we've already sold some of that. Like I say, contact the shop if you see a color that's on sale and there's not enough for your ranunculus, because we can either tell you, yes, we can order more and you can pre-order at the sale price, or we'll say it's super back ordered or it's discontinued. So you know, you can narrow your choices down, that kind of thing. But this might be an option next week. Who knows? This was an option the week before when I was like, ooh, I want to make it. This might go on sale next week, but I'm not sure. I can't guarantee that. It's fairly likely, but I can't guarantee it. And the color I'm making, we probably don't have enough in stock for me to make one and someone else to make one. So if you're like, oh, I must have this color, contact us. Because if I haven't started it yet, maybe I'll give it to you. I mean, I won't give it to you. I'll sell it to you, but you know. So anyway, that's my long diatribe right now.
I have bought yarn for 3 completely random different ranunculi, and I'm not sure which 2 I'm going to do. And I'll probably continue to change my mind all the way up until I cast.
Right? Oh, I'm half doing that basically. Like I was thinking with the llama lace last week, there was a pattern I published in the newsletter by Melanie Bird called A Study in Pink. And I was like, I'm going to make that in the llama lace. And then this came in, and we had a friend yesterday who said, why don't you make it in this? Now, this is thinner than what the pattern calls for, but it could be really pretty. But again, 2 tops in Mayu lace, I don't know. Like that seems excessive.
Hold on.
Yes.
We're going to talk about excessive. How many sweaters and shawls do you have in fiber space?
On needles are done.
Well, one sweater, one shawl,
and DK or fingering, right?
One shawl, one sweater.
You're counting more things over there than I see, but she's probably right.
The gold in the Delphinia is that's Yarn Baby.
Laces.
Sorry.
It's Lorna's laces and Yarn Baby.
Okay. So
1, 2. Okay, we're
2 shawls, 2 sweaters that I can see right now.
I can keep going, but for shawls, we're talking shawls or sweaters in fiber space, vivacious DK or 4-ply. So there's multiple things and multiple thicknesses. 1, 2, 3,
And
4. What's the half?
the
What half thing?
tweed imps on your crochet shawl.
5. There's a cowl back there. 6 that has half.
And
6. Hang on, we're counting in. My Echo Point makes 7. My Miss Princess Bride Mystery Knit Along makes 8. My Avena at Home makes 9. Maybe she's got a point. But that's something that, like, I mean, it's funny because that yarn almost sells itself and I don't have to make things out of it, but it's so much fun. This yarn is a little more luscious and a little more expensive and not as many people are buying it.
so maybe it would help to make 2 tops out of it just to show what it can do.
And I did have somewhere, I have a shawl on needles, a lace weight shawl on, or like a plan for a lace weight shawl with some colors. I don't know where it is. I could always try to find that again and make it, but it's true because let's say the llama lace, we do have to get to our questions. I'll get there in a second. This almost segues to that because we're talking about sweaters today. The llama lace for a top, whereas it would be lovely. I think they're phasing llama lace out at some point in the future. They're already phased out the naturals. And it's pretty warm for a t-shirt top, even though the t-shirt top is that Melanie Berg, a lot of people who do these lacy t-shirt tops, they write them for like merinos or plant fibers or things that you would think would be kind of warm. They're kind of in between. And this will actually be kind of warm, but be super, super lacy. And the Melanie Berg pattern is written for a 3mm needle, which is pretty small. And then I could have a ranunculus in this color because I already have a ranunculus in a red. And I could do the study in pink and an almost pink. And just like knit all my profits up, you know, it happens. My dad actually asked that the other day. He's like, do you knit all your profits? As in, like, do you just knit up all your yarn? I'm like, no. I knit some of my yarn. And they're all for the shop. So they're all still equity or assets for the shop. That's the word I was looking for. And apparently Liz is allergic to money talk. No, I'm kidding.
It's math.
Bless you.
Thank you.
I'll wait till she's done. I'm not being uncaring or unfeeling, really.
No, it can go on for a
It
while.
just,
So
I would be saying bless you for the next 15 minutes. No, not really. I exaggerate a lot. Something stuck in my throat, so I'm gonna have to drink some more coffee because I've barely had any coffee today. This is adrenaline.
well,
Because we're so tired from the past 2 days. Yes, let's pull up the questions. Actually, while you're pulling, oh no, is it up?
It's up.
I was gonna say I could talk about the comment, but we wrote it down, so we got it. Okay, what's the question? Let's do it.
Dear Becky and Lizzie, in episode 211 of your sideshow, you mentioned that you wanted to discuss sizing of garments and sweaters specifically. Then in episode 212, you asked for someone to remind you. So here is your reminder.
Yay!
Can you also discuss what positive ease means and how to measure it in existing garments someone might have at home? Thanks. Sweating the details.
Okay. Yes. Sweat, sir. Sweating. Hey, I get it. I get it. Okay. I'm debating how to tackle this. Okay, I think in the order in which it was listed in the email is okay. Sometimes I go backwards, right?
Yeah.
So, sizing of garments. Like we had a couple walk in who I think they wanted to get yarn for someone else to make a sweater. So they weren't the knitters or crocheters. And they were saying, well, but he wears like a large. And there's a couple of issues with just throwing out a size because not only just in the garment world, if you go shopping at a mall or wherever you're shopping now, because I don't even know if malls really function anymore. But if you go to different clothing stores, have different ideas of what small, medium, and large are to begin with. And that's been going on for decades.
Yeah, it's like if you order online, there's a sizing chart for their brand.
And that actually is perfect because you have to use the pattern sizing chart, basically. Like it's hard to just say, well, I wear an extra large, so therefore all these extra, anything that says extra large should be my size.
My Twilight sweater,
Mhm.
the size that the biggest size was a 2X, but it was way smaller for her sizing chart. Like if you go by the what's your bust size, your
Mhm.
biggest part, it was way smaller than a medium size in several other patterns that I have used.
I think what throws people off is they're like, okay, I'm a small. And that's wonderful if everybody is using the same metric for small. There's a lot of patterns that's why some patterns have shifted from this, because a lot of patterns they'll set out sizes and they'll say, okay, the first one is small, the second one is medium, the third one is large, the next one is extra large. But their gradient, their like gaps between measurements is different than someone else's. So just using hey, I'm going to call the first size small or extra small, the second medium. Yeah, sometimes they have medium 1 and medium 2, and like, so it's not a 1-to-1 ratio. It's like, I mean, I think a lot of women can actually relate. If you go shopping for pants, like one company's size 8 is not another company's size 8. Like going to, like, I'm gonna date myself because I don't really shop anymore, but like going to the Gap versus going to Loft or something, you pick out 2 size 8s and one is gonna feel super tight on you and one is gonna feel okay. And if you only go to the other store where it's super tight, you're gonna be like, what happened to me? When it's their version of sizing is different. Like I feel like to some level, and guys probably have their own version of this, but what I've seen of like guys' pants and stuff to measure like the inseam and the waist is much more regulated than women's sizes. And some women's sizes do that too, that have the inseam or have, I think that's much more like my waist is this and my inseam is this, bam, pants that fit.
A couple of women's design, they're more like the expensive jeans. And of course that's, me looking back 5 years ago when I was looking for jeans.
And
but like it was like, okay, anymore. This is the waist and this is your inseam. And I kind of wish that women's pants would do that, because
do that more often, because we're such different sizes.
Petite, regular, and extra long for leg length, and small, medium, large,
or like the number sizes that for pants that just aren't consistent across different brands and stuff like that. So all that is being said to say, it really depends on the pattern. And it depends that, like, there are 2 things I think are super essential to figuring out what size, well, maybe 3, to figuring out what size you need to make. There's knowing your own bust size, like measuring yourself at your largest part is what I like to say.
It's not your bra size.
It's not your bra band size. If you're like, I'm a 36D, it's like, but someone who's a 36D is not going to have the same chest size as someone who's a 36A. Like that has to do with like the band size has to do with something that's in between your actual like rib cage size and your girls. And there's all this crazy secret math that goes into bra sizes. So you can't just say I'm a 36. That means I'm 36 inches here. No, I wish.
It's
but,
like the ring sizing where for our rings that go on our fingers, everybody comes in and goes, well, my ring size is, and they're talking about
their ring finger, which may not be where they wear it.
Thumb and first finger aren't.
And they don't, and our ring sizes are not necessarily the same exact as it gets so complicated.
So.
But yeah, I mean, I'll be perfectly frank. I think currently I'm like a 38. I won't say how many D's, but I'm a 43 inch, roughly 43, 44 here. So that's a big difference, right? If you go off of your band size on your bra, you could end up with a sweater that is super tight on you. But okay, I digress. So it's knowing what your measurement is at your largest part. And often it helps to have another person do that. If you wrap a fabric tape measure around your girls, your arms being raised can throw that off. You'll get pretty close if you wrap it around and hold it and look. You'll get, I mean, I do that. But when people come in here at this point, I'm like, okay, put this around your girls and hand it back to me, so I'm not, you know, accidentally feeling the girls. And so we're keeping this appropriate, right? And I'll you know, gently, I'll have you put your arms down at your sides, and I'll gently overlap and see what measurement we're getting. There is something in, I'm not as well versed in it, but there is something in, if you're going like this, or if you're moving, you're not getting the most accurate measurement in certain parts if your arms are not just gently at your sides. So it could be that you're more pear-shaped and your hips are your biggest part. And if you want something that is more straight lined to not stretch on your hips and make them look bigger, that's the part you might want to actually measure to figure this out. So that's the first thing, is knowing your measurement at your largest torso area.
And if it is a lower part on your torso, it's going to affect how the top hangs.
Well, and that's what I have to do with, I mean, we might kind of get to that today, but that's what we've talked about that several times, but not everyone watches every show, which is okay, by the way, but you know, I'm just kidding. But I'm bigger here than I am up here. And so, yeah, if I pick the size based off of this, like this sweater that I'm wearing right now, I think we were saying on Tuesday, the pattern that the model is wearing on the pattern page, it's a much tighter collar and it goes up higher. And I think it might be because she's not as busty. So she didn't pick a size based on, like, she's not wearing a size based on her bust, or like her size fits all of her more accurately. And this is tighter up here. It hangs on her shoulders completely differently. So to return to trying to keep this semi-organized, and I have to look at, okay. Bust size, or your torso biggest portion. So if you're making a sweater for a guy, that could be his chest, it could be his gut, you know, but it's kind of trying to moderate between the two. So that's the first measurement to know. And then it's knowing how the chest measurement, because that's usually what they'll say. They'll use chest measurements in the pattern. It's knowing the language of the pattern and how they are framing their sizes. Some people are doing like numbers 1 through 11 is what the Ranunculus is doing. Some people do letters instead of reverting to the small, medium, large thing. Because sometimes, to be size inclusive, if we just stuck with small, medium, large, and then everything after that was how many XLs, it gets really big, and that can make people feel self-conscious too. But the caveat to that is, somewhere on the pattern, if it's a good pattern, it should have either something that's based on your chest size, like what your chest size actually is, what that measurement I just told you about actually is, make this size. Or they will say finished bust size, which is what the sweater itself will measure when it's done. And that segues into the other two things that this sweating person is asking about: positive ease and figuring things out from a sweater you already have.
So I already have this one done. And to figure out the positive ease, I'd lay it on the bed.
I'm gonna have a caveat to this. Go ahead.
You probably are. And I'd measure across the chest, and then, you know, take my measurement in half and subtract how many inches.
Okay, so if you want to figure out the actual, because let's back up a second and say positive ease, there's positive and negative. So it's like, here's your bust measurement for what you measure, and positive is adding, negative is taking away. So if some sweaters do have negative ease, and that doesn't mean that you are suddenly in a corset or something, but it means it's a more clingy sweater. It's a more form-fitting sweater, and some people actually really do like that. They don't like the big roomy. They like something that's gonna like accent their silhouette. A lot of us don't want to accent our silhouettes, and that's okay too.
Hats have negative ease.
Yes, hats have negative ease, so they don't fall off your head. Like they're like 20 inches. The hat will come out 19 inches, so it'll stretch and fit on. It doesn't mean your head will no longer have circulation. But so negative, think taking away from the number of your bust measurement. Positive means adding to it. So what Liz is mentioning, because when I'm like, figure out positive ease from a sweater you already have, I'm like, it's kind of weird and kind of hard. There's like, you could figure out, well, again, I'm getting ahead of myself. What Liz is talking about is if you put it on the bed and measure it across, that's half
Yes.
plus a little,
Yes.
but like, because there's always the overlap of your fabric. So it's, if you take the measurement straight across and double it, that's roughly what the finished circumference, bust circumference of your sweater is. There's always, with the little overlap of the fabric, you might have a half inch to an inch more than what you measure and multiply. But if Liz is like, if she wanted to figure out the positive ease, like how much of a difference there is between her chest measurement and the sweater's measurement, yes. Take your bust measurement, measure across a sweater you like, multiply that sweater by 2. There's a lot of math and knitting and crochet. And then subtract. It's an algebra formula. It's going to be X is the measurement of your sweater across times 2 minus what your bust measurement was. I feel like I want to put that, if I can, I'll put that at the bottom here if I have time. There's always things I forget to do because we get busy at the shop. But and that could tell you that 6 inches of positive ease is your comfy zone. The other thing, if a sweater is often sweater patterns, if the designer is educated on what positive ease is, they will say this is designed to have 3 inches of positive ease in it. So you would take your bust measurement, add 3 inches, and see which sweater size is close to that. If it lists, it could list positive ease, but if it lists like, here are the finished sizes, one thing you can do without having to do the algebraic formula is you measure across your sweater, multiply by 2, like a sweater you like how it fits you, double it so you get the front and the back, and just pick the size sweater in the instructions that's close to that.
Yeah.
Instead of like trying to do the extra math of what's the positive ease and what do I want my positive ease to be. Say, I like how this sweater fits. This is the bust size I want to make. And then you just, the complication comes when a sweater pattern just says, well, if you're this bust size, make this sweater size. And they don't give you the finished bust circumference. Most sweaters should have somewhere. It may not be in the beginning. Most sweater patterns, it may not be in the beginning. It might be at the end where they have a drawing of the finished sweater and they're like, it should be this much across or this much circumference. You can use those numbers to pick a size. Once you get used to it, it can be easier to pick a size. But that hopefully covers a good chunk of that because we have about 5 minutes left-ish. And I'd like to get to
the bind off.
Yeah.
Bind offs.
When we were talking about sweaters last week, someone asked, what is your favorite bind off for a hem? And that could be more complicated than 5 minutes, but because I don't know if we have like pure, like you have a bind off you like.
I have
right
2 that I've been using.
I use different ones all the time, but go ahead.
My go-to favorite, it's stretchy. It takes a little bit of time to get used to, but it's the Icelandic Bind Off. You knit one, flip it around, you twist it when you're setting it back on, and you knit through that loop into the bottom loop. And
it's hard to explain like with hand motions without doing it. There might be some good videos out there. I have not made a video on it yet because I'm still getting used to the tension. Like if the tension is right, it's super perfect. Stretchy, and I don't, know more about it. So I don't
if the tension's right, it comes out awesome. If the tension's not right, it's tight. But it took me a little bit to practice that. And I use it on like my papillons. I use it on sweater hems. And if I'm in a rush, I knit 2 together through the back loop with a bigger needle.
There's so the question of your favorite bind off for a hem, sometimes that depends on what your hem is. So, I mean, my go-to when in doubt is pretty much always just a regular classic bind off, which is knit 2 stitches and pull one over the other. But I will go up a few needle sizes to make sure it's not too tight. That is a very uniform, same stitch, all the way across. There are things like knit 2 together through the back loop, which is also same stitch all the way across, but a little bit more give to it. You don't have to go up a needle size. There is one called, I think it's called Jenny's Surprisingly Stretchy Bind Off. And you go down a needle size for it, but it can be really good because, again, I'm splitting my sentences and not finishing them. You go down a needle size often for it because there are extra wraps involved, which make it stretchier after you do it. And that can be good for a 1x1 ribbing because there's a different way to wrap and do the stitch, whether you're knitting or purling. Again, I don't have videos on all of these yet, but some people really like that because it ends it with the stitch that you're doing there, the knit or the purl. So it can end it looking better. Like all of the bind offs on all of this is just, it's just knit 2 past the one further over the one closer to the tip of the needle. It's a very traditional basic bind off. And I have no problem with that most of the time. I just started using the tubular bind off for 1x1 ribbings on things. What is cool about the tubular bind off, it's a sewn bind off, which means you have to get a really, like for the bottom of this, you'd have to get a super, super long tail and thread it on a sewing needle and start going through the stitches in this fun, crazy way. And again, I don't think I made a video on this one, but I might have used Very Pink Knits or one of their videos to learn how to do it. What is really cool about the tubular bind off, it's a sewn bind off, as I mentioned. It sounds like you're making a tube, but what they mean by that is that it looks like the knit stitches just kind of come up and go back down, like they fold over on themselves. And you just see the V's of the knit stitches and the purls hunker down. You don't have an edge like this where you have a flat top to it. So it can be really cool to make it look like your stitches just kind of like ended, like not with a cap on it, but just kind of went ta-da, and it's pretty stretchy.
I want to say that's why I found the Icelandic bind off, because all of the super stretchy bind offs that I found at the time were sewn bind offs, and binding off 25 stitches on a papillon, like
you didn't want to do
the
that.
pulling of the yarn through every stitch would have just, and so.
Or keeping the tension accurate on that. I find the tubular bind offs really great for cuffs. Like I did on mittens I made for Christmas. It's good. It's good for shorter ends that aren't a ton of stitches. I really like how the way it looks. It takes a lot of concentration and time though, because if you get off, there's like, go this way, that way, come back through this side. And once you get the hang of it, it's really cool. And you can tell pretty quickly if it's not going right, but undoing it. And once you get off can be a little, there's quite a few steps to keep track of. Some of it makes sense. And some of it's you just have to remember. So it's different, like Kitchener, grafting the stitches together. There's like 4 steps or something, and it's really easy to remember all of them. There's 4 or 5 steps to a tubular bind off, and I recommend not doing it while something else might distract you. That's what I'll say about that. But I do like it if you want more of a challenge with a nicer finish. It can look really cool. And I don't think I have examples here right now. But
you tend to do more different types of bind offs because you follow the pattern, so you can help people follow the pattern when they come to it.
Yeah, and if a pattern actually has a different bind off in it, then I'll sometimes, if it either doesn't or I don't like it, I won't use it. But you're right. I sometimes experiment with more bind offs because I'm expected to help with lots of different stuff. So it could be interesting to try the tubular bind off on the Ranunculus because it's designed to have a 1x1. I think it's a twisted rib at the bottom, but it's designed to have ribbing at the bottom. So, but it's a tough question to answer in terms of what's your favorite, because there's a lot of fun ones to use and everyone's going to find their own favorite. And there's challenges or easiness to all different types. So, I've only done the Jenny surprisingly stretchy bind off on a couple of things. It was really neat, but I think on at least one of my sweater cuffs, and this could have been the needle I used, it could have been my tension, it could have been the fabric of the yarn. It kind of flared a little bit more than I wanted it to. And I would love something in between because if I'm tugging on this one, I can feel it's a little tight at the bottom. It doesn't have as much give as the rest of the sweater, but honestly, sometimes that's okay at the bottom of a sweater, because you don't want it to flare out. That's the issue.
That's my Icelandic.
The Icelandic might do pretty well. And your Icelandic was on on seed stitch.
Yes.
Icelandic still gives you like uniform stitches across the bottom, just like a regular bind off will. It doesn't.
I have alternated the Icelandic and the
you-
Russian. And the Russian, you don't twist the stitch to set
Okay.
it back on.
But both the Icelandic and the Russian, because they're very similar.
Yeah.
Don't necessarily replicate knit one, purl one. They're the same stitch. Like you may not flip it, but it gives a uniform
The
looking stitch at the
Russian, I
bottom.
think, twists like this has the seam looking out this way,
Mhm.
where and the Russian, I think, flips it a little bit.
And
So
and I will say the traditional bind off I did on these with knit one, purl one, you're knitting in pattern and pulling the stitch over. So what's hunkering right underneath your bind off still looks like the matching knits or purls. If I had bound this off with a knit two together through the back loop, I might have had a little more of, it'll be stretchier, but I might not have consistency of knits and purls. At the very end, I might have a 2-layer thing going on where they all look like knit. That's something that more you have to try out because I can't guarantee. But often if you do traditional bind off, you can do it with knit one, purl one, or whatever kind of ribbing. And like, I'll knit a stitch and then purl a stitch and then pull one over the other. And then knit a stitch, pull over, purl a stitch, pull over. The edge looks like all knit stitches sitting on top of each other on the flat part. The side facing you will look like knits and purl stuff.
So I will say that my least favorite bind off so far is I-cord bind off without anything to keep it
From curling.
curling.
When it's down at the, and
Yeah.
did we talk about
We
that?
talked
in another
about that
show?
a
Yeah.
little bit.
I-cord takes a lot of energy too, because you're knitting 3 and knitting a couple and knitting 2 together and then sliding them back. And then there's a lot of extra stitch work involved, but it gives you that rolled edge.
It
which can be
has
great.
a fantastic look, but on the hem of like sweaters and stuff, if you don't have an edge to it or like
Mhm.
something to keep it flat down at the bottom, it just wants to roll up.
I think on my golden fern,
Mhm.
the edges of the sleeves had an I-cord bind off, applied I-cord edging after I did bunch of
After-
ribbing.
yeah,
I don't think it is the bind off on the bottom of the torso, because that's a lot of work. It was only on the sleeves as like a nice little detail. But there was some kind of either corrugated ribbing or color work ribbing or something to kind of keep the structure and keep it from rolling.
Yeah.
It's the wider something is with only an I-cord edging at the bottom of it, the more likely it is going to flip up. And you found that, right?
yes.
Okay, we are past 10 o'clock, but we didn't want to leave things unfinished, and no one has walked up yet because it's not pouring rain outside, but it's a little
It's
miserable looking
gloomy.
outside. So we'll see. So if you want to join us in person, we have Friday night, we have Sunday afternoon, and which we talked about earlier, and we will see you back here next week to talk more about ranunculi, and maybe I'll have done some study in pink with this, because I shouldn't start a new project, but oh my gosh, like I've started pulling old things out of hibernation and doing a little bit on them, and I'm realizing how unloved they must feel. But it's like I have a tolerance. It's like a caffeine tolerance or something stronger, but I'm going to stick with caffeine because I don't actually have experience with anything else, but it's like I need more caffeine to keep me going. And my morning cup of caffeine is like, but what about me? And I'm like, yes, I do love you, but I still need more caffeine. And it's like I'm searching for more endorphin rushes, and everything's calling my name. Yeah.
She'll start it tonight.
The high, I'm searching because the high is up here and I need to be up here, and I'm gonna keep going. Keep breathing. Okay. There's so many other things. I mean, I'm really happy I finished this. This made me feel like I should go back and do all my other projects. Now this has my nose germs on it, so I have to knit with it.
She has to.
Okay, we're gonna go and open the shop and do things we should have done yesterday, but it got busy and we lost track of time. And
Actually, we might not.
by we, I mean me. So, you know. Bye. It's good to hang out with everybody for a little bit. We'll see you later.